Well, I just got off a live stream with a group, a mastermind group. It's kind of a master mentorship, I would say. But it's a group that I host, and with some really amazing ladies. And we are working on this concept of embodiment, and it really made me realize that embodiment is something that comes up in mindset work, comes up in leadership, right? Um, but nothing ever, there's no image. And so embodiment would be like you're getting a vision of what you want, and then you're getting the picture of the person that would already be living in those circumstances, living in those results, okay, in those results, let's say it that way. And so embodiment is recognizing like what you need to do personally to close the gap and start being that higher version, the better version of you that would attract and be living in that particular lifestyle. So let's bring this to relationships. Whenever I work with someone, I always have to start with like, what is their, like, what's their why? You know, first of all, why are we here? Second of all, why do you feel called to have to do something more to improve your relationship, okay? And then, why do you have a relationship at all? Like, what's the desired outcome? You must know that. Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why. It's a great book, excellent leadership book, excellent business book. But it's so important to know like what our why is. And then in order to have that level of relationship that we want, have that level of life, have that level of business, it doesn't really matter. It's all founded in the very same principle of starting with why, knowing your why, defining your why. So let's say that you're in a relationship right now and you feel like your ship's passing in the night. And sometimes those ships get there's some friction. It's not this ease and flow of the relationship that you want. Well, then that's a lot of times when I start to work with people is because they recognize there is something wrong here. Like the rhythm is off, like the music is discordant, like there's something that has to be rectified or brought back to center. And that's exactly what needs to happen. You have to recenter your focus to what your why is. Can that why morph and change over time? Yes, but the root reason probably stays the same. It just shows up maybe a little bit differently. Let's say that you want to lead a very successful life. Well, leading a successful life probably involves time and money, choices, plenty of resources to be able to do the things you want to do when you want to do them. Let's say that your current life is very structured. You don't actually have a lot of extra time for like thought and to think things through. Then the embodiment principle would say, if you want the life where you have plenty of time and you have plenty of money, then you have to learn how to practice a pause. So you might need to start embodying every day, just pausing, just doing 15 or 20 minutes of pausing, also known as meditation, or journal, like writing things out, working it out on paper. What are the traits that need to show up in your life or in your relationship for it to be successful, for it to be the successful version of itself? So you have to have a picture in your mind of what that is. What is that successful version of itself? And then how do I close that gap? That's what I help people do. I mean, it's not rocket scientist stuff. However, it's way more complicated than you would think it would need to be. And most of that is because people need the support of working through their stuff in order to be able to just to taste that vision and to know that it's available for them. Sometimes you can get so caught up in what is that you keep generating what is, because the version of you that's showing up right now is what's getting the results that are coming your way. And in order to up-level your results in anything, be it in your career, be it in business, be it in your relationships, it all requires a certain amount of intentional focus on the what of why of what you're running toward, and then being aware of the different habits that are occupying, habitual thinking, physical habits. I could say I want to be a size 8 by this day, but if I eat foods that aren't nutritious, if I don't go to the gym and work out, if I eat into the wee hours of the morning, like all night long, I'm not going to get there. So some of us have habits in our relationships that we don't even realize that we're contributing to it being a lesser version of itself than it could potentially be. And then the desire, like the relationship that we most desire. And so embodiment means recognizing what I want, seeing where I'm at, and looking at the habits so that intentionally I can, in the now, start to be the person who would have that relationship that I most want. So does that mean having to be right maybe is a habit? And having to be right is never going to serve any great relationship long term. Needing to understand, reaching to understand, that would be a great concept to embody. Taking your version of what is right, putting it on hold, and being open to hearing what somebody else has to say about something. Really listening, right? So really listening could be something. Maybe it's you haven't read the 5 love languages. You have no idea what the love language of your partner is, and so you're not feeding it. You could just, that very simple thing right there, reading that book and figuring out what would be the best way to communicate your love to your partner in their language, the language that they would hear it and receive it, that can just produce such a great up level. But it requires intention, because your default is going to be not to do that. So whatever results we have in the present reflect what we've done and been, what we've embodied up until this point. So any up level requires identifying what you really want, and then closing the gap on the habits of who we are today and who we truly want to be. So we have to close that gap on those habits. We have to replace those habits that are chronic. We kind of have some chronic default habits. We have to work on intentionally replacing them or upgrading them or adopting new ones to add to. It's different for everyone. And that's why the support of a coach, it just is a shortcut. And so, I invite you today to take a look at what's your why for even being in the relationship that you're in. What do you want it to really be like? What's the ideal scene? What's the ultimate perspective? What does that relationship embody to be the best relationship? And then what do I need to do to close that gap? What's something I can do today to blah, 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 blah. Fill in that blank. Get with someone who can help you. It is a shortcut. Embodiment. You'll never have what you want if you don't become the person who would live that life or that relationship.